That's the fast intro video again. But anyway, what's up, DFS Army boys? Welcome to today's MLB breakdown show where the slates are big, chalks are stacking, and of course, we're really just trying to dodge, that one pitcher who explodes before recording it out. We got a 12-game beast on our hands tonight. Field is flocking to, Glasnow, Kikuchi, Luzardo. Those guys are going to be chalkier pitchers, but are they must plays or are they trap doors? That's the question we're going to be asking Razzle here in a minute. As you see, we've had some technical difficulties and things like that we've scrambled behind the scenes to get the show ready for you today. But, chalky stacks, you probably already know Dodgers, Royals, Phillies are kind of leaning some of the ownership. But again, 12-game slate. We've got our eyes on sharper pivots that could win you those large field tournaments. And today, my plan before Razzle jumped in here and helped me out was to build you guys cash and tournament lineups kind of live right in the thick of things with DS. So Razzle agreed to do some of that. So when we get through the main part of what we're going to talk about, that's what we're going to dive into. So once again, riding shotgun is the coach that really and truly, I guess, what are we going to say? The algorithm could only wish it could bottle him up. Raz, GPT. What's up, boy? Are we riding chalk tonight, or are we getting off of it real quick?
I think hitting-wise, we're probably riding chalk. I'm not so sure about pitching-wise, though.
That's going to be fun to dive into. So, obviously, without further ado, I'll tell you what, DePrince, we're going to throw in some of the FanDuel stuff, but we're probably, again, asking Razzle to do FanDuel stuff is, kind of like, asking a bull to give you milk. It's like not going to really be the greatest thing. Not that he can't do it. A lot of his stuff will transfer from back and forth. But being that we're on such scramble mode today, we'll probably just mostly stick with DK. I promise you this, though. We'll get you some FanDuel stuff, here in short order. It just probably won't be today. So I apologize for that. But it's good to see everybody else in here, coming in and rocking the old hashtags. Hopefully, did you win last night? I smashed cash last night. That one was pretty easy. Did you have a decent night?
I got destroyed last night, unfortunately.
Probably because the chalk did what it was supposed to do. Asking everybody else, you guys post your wins, man. If you guys won, doubled up, tripled up, or 10x something, let us know in the comments down there. My cash game lineup was a lot easier. I hit the triple up with it too, guys. MLB is volatile enough with the ceiling and the floor stuff that any of your cash game lineups, when they have good nights, can do damage in triple ups, quintuple ups, and even really small field GPPs. And when I had my little mini stack that was given to me by Domination Station from Atlanta last night, it had Acuna, Riley, and Ozuna in it. So bang, 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 easy score. As long as the pitchers don't implode, you're probably in pretty good shape. Hopefully you guys had some of the similar stuff. Razzle, no weather to worry about today.
No weather issues at all.
Like, I've never seen a clean sheet like this. This looks like, for those people that play soccer, this is a clean sheet for the goalie right here. All zeros everywhere. I guess it's hot in some places, but we already know about all of that. So we can move right past that. When I look at pitchers, and I'm going to open up the chalkboard here today just because it's a different tool to look at. Hopefully you can see that. I'm looking at on DraftKings, Glasnow. I'll switch to FanDuel in a minute just to do a little bit of both sides. But Glasnow, Kikuchi, and Luzardo are obviously the chalk over 25% projected. Everybody else is below 20%. It's a pretty good break point to start talking about who you might include, either SP1, SP2, as guys you want to take leverage on if you're not using those three names I just mentioned. So what do you got for us? You might as well just take it away.
Well, I mean, those three guys stand out a lot for obvious reasons. The problem is those three guys as chalk have a history of blowing up. Luzardo's actually looked like crap after his hot start. Glasnow's injured all the time, so we can never get a consistent read on him. And Kikuchi allows a ton of base runners. So he's kind of at the mercy of home run to fly ball rate. So seeing these three guys as a major chalk is really worrisome, just because they have a higher degree of getting blown up than most chalk SPs do. I'm going to use them. I'm going to be underweight on all three of them because of this. I just like. I mean, the slate has a bunch of pitching that I think is viable, but nobody that's like I have to play 40% of in my mind. So that's what makes it tough for safe, quote unquote, safe pitching. I just don't think we have safe pitching on this slate.
So that's where I was going to go, was to ask you. I mean, because I know you do mostly GPPs. I was going to ask you if you had anybody outside of those top three that you maybe felt like were safer and could be an actual viable cash game pivot, or because they're kind of all vulnerable, would you just roll with the ownership and hope for the best?
I mean, you're probably rolling with the ownership. I want to say that Fried is probably the best play, but he's coming in looking terrible.
Mm-hmm.
The last handful of starts have been bad. The plus thing is he's absolutely dominated the Rays twice this season, and the Rays just aren't good against left-handed pitchers. So to me, like, I just feel like Fried's probably the best pivot off of those other guys. He doesn't really get blown up to the same degree that a Kikuchi can. But yeah, it's tough. I just don't like. I mean, the White Sox are what scored the most runs in baseball over the last week and a half.
Yep,
or whatever. And Luzardo hasn't been good, so there's a lot of questions there. And then Glasnow in a ballpark like that, Glasnow's floor is probably the best of those options because he should still get strikeouts, but is he going to allow a home run or two? Is Ellie going to steal 2 or 3 bases because Glasnow can be run on? I don't know. It's tough. Like, I'm looking at the Carnage report, and the name that actually stands out more than all of them is Sean Manaea, and that's still weird. Just because San Diego doesn't strike out all that much, and Manaea, like, just finally in his third start passed 80 pitches.
So Manaea with the second lowest Carnage implies a little bit of safety. He's got a 560 K score, 133 ISO against, under 300 xWOBA against. He's just lacking the ownership.
Yeah.
For being kind of – it's not that he wouldn't be cash viable. It's that if he does implode, you're in a lot of trouble if the other guys are just kind of okay.
Right, and the thing is, like, the difference between his floor and ceiling probably isn't that wide either because he's still somewhat pitch capped, I think.
Sure.
I mean, they could let him go 90 pitches, but we don't know for sure. You know, because he threw in the 60s the first 2 starts and then jumped to 80. They could keep him at 80 for a number of starts in a row. We just have no idea.
Why isn't Sonny Gray? Is that recency or is that trade bait? Because he just declined his trade option, said he wants to stay in St. Louis.
His recent play has just not been good.
Of course.
He's strong at home, but the Marlins are a team that just hasn't been striking out a whole lot of late. I mean, he could have the safest floor of all the pitchers, but
outside of recent form,
I just don't really know that he has the trends to get the upside. Like,
okay,
like if you told me that his floor was the highest, but he basically got to his floor only, like I'm just not interested in 12 to 14 points.
Well, let's flip this on its head. If we're for cash games largely leaning towards the ownership, the guys that are chalky, who has the highest ceiling on the slate? Not even at lower ownership. If it's one of the chalky guys, it's one of the chalky guys. But who has the highest ceiling? Who's the biggest considerations, for large field tournaments? I mean, and I guess we'll know if they're a pivot because they're not going to be, Glasnow, Luzardo, Kikuchi, whatever.
I mean, well, highest ceiling wise got to be Glasnow. Biggest K upside for me. His K score isn't extremely high, but like his K ability with some of the Ks in the Cincinnati lineup, like I just feel like there's a lot more K upside for him than somebody like Luzardo, who the White Sox haven't really been striking out a lot.
Are they at Cincinnati?
Yeah, it is in Cincinnati.
That's a little bit of a knock.
Yeah, like Manaya's K scores are so high, but San Diego doesn't strike out that much. I know San Diego's weak against left-handed pitching. Kikuchi, maybe. The problem is like his ceiling game. I don't know. I just don't know that he can go some elite performance and not walk guys too. Like that takes away from his ability. Is the fact that he walks and racks up pitch count. So, I mean, I think it's Glass now. One of the guys that I really like today would be Mike Soroka. Absolutely dominates right-handed bats. Has multiple double-digit strikeout games on the season. Houston, very right-hand heavy. I think it's a very interesting matchup. So I was really shocked to see his VK score super low.
Mm-hmm.
I'm intrigued by Severino, but that's super dangerous in that ballpark.
Of course. I'm interested in Soroka a little bit too when you mention him because Houston's drawing some ownership again tonight.
Yeah, they have over a 4.5 run total, but there's a lot of upper 4s and 5s.
If people are going to run to those Houston bats, you kind of get, if you took a Soroka and he's got some of that upside, then you kind of get a double dip if he has a great game.
Yeah, it's just like his numbers against right-handed bats have been phenomenal this season. Mm-hmm. And I like to prefer those splits in my decision making. If you told me Joe Boyle was going to be able to throw 6 innings, I think I'd be very much on him. But as of right now, I'm not.
He's another one who's
against the Yankees lineup.
His VK score just falls off the cliff,
which is weird. Because the Yankees can definitely strike out without Judge. I mean, Stanton's not in the lineup, so maybe that lowers his K upside. But he has K stuff. The problem is he hasn't thrown over 50 or 60 pitches in 3 weeks or something. So I just don't know what his length is. So ultimately, he didn't make my pool, but I wanted to have him in there.
So it sounds like you're kind of Glass now. And then, I don't know, a smattering of a lot of other stuff. Not that you're going to be 80% on Glass now, but I mean, it sounds like that's your leader, and then everybody else is kind of going to fill in around that.
I'm still looking at being underweight on Glass now, just because he's so highly projected on that I just don't feel comfortable being that heavy on somebody like him.
How many pitchers are in your pool overall?
I have 11.
Okay, so another big night, just like before. But it sounds like tonight's going to be even more mix and match than usual, where you're just kind of those 11, you're just kind of like, give me 2 of them, and I mean, I almost don't care a ton which 2 it is, as long as it's these 11 guys. And I mean, again, you got your favorites, but it doesn't sound like you're even going to be 20, 30% on anybody.
I'm going to be, I don't even probably look. I would guess around 25%, but when the chalky guys are so volatile, I mean, I might be 25 to 30%. My DK shows just under 38% right now. I haven't refreshed. I just don't want 40% of somebody that I think has some injury possibilities, and then obviously some blow up upside in a small ballpark.
Then let me ask you this then. Some night, I mean, we don't have to play DFS every night. A lot of people do pick and choose which slates they play, especially cash games. Is tonight the kind of night that even if you did play more cash games, you might be like, I'm not doing it now, not tonight. I don't see anything with some certainty or some consistency that I really, really want to gamble on such a large slate. So for cash games, would you just kind of skip it and just go all GPP?
I mean, I would, because like I have no problem getting rid of cash game play, really.
Right. I mean, that's why I try to put the caveat in there for you, because you play GPP only anyway. But I mean, if you were more of a cash game player, would tonight be one of those nights you'd be prone to be a little bit more selective and be like, you know what, I really don't even have to play cash tonight, even though I usually do, if that was your MO. I mean, I don't, because
probably.
I have no problem bailing. I have no problem bailing on slates myself. Most people want to play every day. And I'm like, nah, I don't feel like it tonight. I do that all the time. I just didn't know if you'd be in the same boat.
Yeah, I don't love this slate from a safety perspective as far as for pitching.
Well, bats are volatile anyway in MLB. Right. So it's like if you don't see a couple of pitchers that you really have some confidence in, cash game wise, you can almost, like I said, you can almost just bail on slate and be like, now again, if it was 4 or 5 games, then I get it. We're not always going to like all of our options. But on a 12-game slate, for crying out loud, we should like 3 or 4 options, even for cash games. And if we're not in that situation, then there's just so damn many options on the slate from top to bottom that it's like, I'm just guessing anyway. So I don't like guessing in cash games. That's just my thing. It's not what they're for. Guessing's for tournaments. Let's go ahead and just pivot over to stacks then. Let's talk about stacks. I mean, I see a lot of red that ISO column, that Carnage report. Hopefully the guys in the chat room see that as well. That's a couple of pretty sexy bomb-loaded pitchers in there. And if the chalk can even blow up, I mean, it might be a night where – before we do into the leverage stack stuff, if you don't feel that tonight is super safe for the top-owned pitching options, are you focusing a little bit more on stacking against some of those chalky pitchers, or is that maybe not worth it because there's some really, really bad pitchers out there that you'd rather target?
I think mostly it's not worth it all that much, at least for me. It's tough because, like, if you wanted to stack Cincinnati, I'd understand it. I'm just more interested in Cincinnati, like as a mini stack against Glasnow. Some power speed combinations, Friedel and Ellie. Kikuchi can always be stacked against. I'm just a little sick of stacking Texas right now. So, like, I mean, Luzardo can be stacked against by the White Sox, but I prefer a mini stack as well.
It's another one. Texas is not bringing leverage. Cincinnati's bringing middling leverage. You know, I mean, it's one of those things that if you're not getting good leverage off stacking against the chalk, then you might as well just target the better offenses on the slate and be done with it. It's kind of what I view. Let's do this. How many teams you got in your stacks tonight?
2 in tier 1, 3 in tier 2, and then
all right,
7
folks.
in tier 3.
2 in tier 1, 3 in tier 2. I'm looking for the first guesses, boys and girls out there in comment land. It's time to start putting up or shutting up. Am I right? While you guys do that, I'll give you a few minutes to kind of put some guesses out there that we can run through. Harlock's got Seattle in there first. I want to at least show Chalkboard and FanDuel because I said I would. I want to do that before I forget. So let me find what Carnage report, go back to Chalkboard with it. And we'll share this tab. And I will get down to FanDuel here really quick, giving you guys another 30 seconds or so to put in some guesswork. FanDuel actually has Freed up top, but he's only 15%. Glass now at 15%, so kind of tied at 1 and 2. Soroka, Gray, Luzardo, Kikuchi, those guys are down the list. So being 2 pitchers versus 1 pitcher sites, obviously there's always going to be some differences. Freed jumping up there surprises me, but not you, being that he was kind of the one outside of those 3 that you were looking at. Let me give you this one, and you can make the call here for the FanDuel people. Glass now is 10,200. Freed is 9,400, so 800 cheaper. They're at the same ownership, and Freed actually has a higher kind of point per dollar if the projections mean anything. Which one would you pick on a 1-pitcher site between Glasnow and Freed tonight? Safety, floor plus upside.
I am going to go on FanDuel with Glasnow.
Okay. Thought I might get you to go Freed.
He's 2.5 times lower owned on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. And if you just take the double thought, since two pitcher site, you can just double percentages.
Uh-huh.
That would only put him 30% on FanDuel. Like, I think he's somebody that, like I mentioned, I feel very comfortable in the mid-20s for percentage with. I think that'd be the case on FanDuel because my pitcher pool isn't as wide on FanDuel.
Of course.
So I get to add some percentages to my top guys over there. So FanDuel, I think Glasnow would be my top option.
Okay, interesting. I thought that might be one where you're getting a little bit different. So I like it. Let's dive in. I think it was Harlock that said Seattle. Let's do Seattle for tier 1.
Seattle is my number 1 team on the night.
Number 1 overall. Ding, ding, ding. Where the Harlock, my boy, where's your hashtag win? I mean, if there's ever a time to use one, it's now. And of course, if there's ever a time to use a coupon code for DFS Army, it's that MLB Live coupon code down below. Osastic, is that how you'd say that name? Osastic? He says KC too. The Prince says KC. So I don't know if you guys mean tier 2 or if you mean tier 1. So we'll throw KC out there and let Razzle tell us which tier they're in if they made his list.
KC is tier 2.
Tier 2, good call, guys. Especially if that 2 meant tier 2. Yeah,
pretty much a team that I'm almost never going to have in tier 1 because I hate stacking them. But
sorry about the mics, Autastic. That could be either one of us.
It's 90 degrees in Kansas City, and they're taking out Eric Fetty. So this is most likely this is like their best matchup possible on the season, and they're still only in tier 2.
Yeah. Well, again, when we're trying to run all those points in there, you need those teams that can kind of hit around, top to bottom through the lineup, or at least, where the production is coming from. And then, for power and stuff, because the scoring is so skewed. KC is always a team that I usually run away from, especially when they're chalky. Chuck said it's safe to say the Devil Rays will be deep fried today. Pretty funny. Hopefully it's not me scratching the pad or stretching the pad. Oh, that's me stretching to make it fit in the middle there, sizing the stuff. That's me doing it. Autastic also says New York Yankees or Dodgers. So let's start with New York. Did New York land in tier 1 or tier 2?
They did not.
Are they at least on your list?
They did make tier 3. It's tough. I like Boyle's stuff. Hates the fact Judge obviously is on the IL. Doesn't like the fact that Stanton is out of the lineup today. Really, they only made my list because they're in New York. If this lineup was in a pitcher's park, I don't think they would have made my top 12.
Okay. Let's do Dodgers. Are they tier 1?
Dodgers ended up in outside of tier 1 and tier 2 in tier 3. Just on the outside. My last tier 2 team came down to Kansas City or the Dodgers.
So they are in tier 3.
They are tier 3, just barely. I like Lodolo just enough.
Tier 2.9.
Yeah, I mean, there are times where I felt like I needed to make a tier 2.5 and a tier 3.5, but I like Lodolo just enough. I don't love the entire Dodgers lineup right now. I mean, I think Betts is fine now he's back. Ohtani's still striking out a bunch, even though obviously Ohtani can hit a homer out of anywhere or off of anybody. But I feel like the Dodgers are just a little over-owned today. They're projecting as our highest leverage or highest owned stack. Not that the percentage is very high at 62% or anything, but it's kind of for that reason why I dropped them down. I didn't think they were a runaway number 1. So to get Seattle at 22% less made it easy for me to do.
Let's do Philly. Where's Philly land?
Philly is a tier 2 team.
I love it when we start getting deep into this list and we haven't gotten both of those tier 1 teams yet. That's fun. That's fun.
I mean, Philly could have been tier 1. But I've been hurt enough recently, and the fact that I really would actually prefer them as a 2 or 3 man stack over a full 5 man stack. Probably the reason why they fell out of tier 1 for me. They're expensive, like you mentioned, but I think the expensive thing isn't that big of a deal on this slate because we don't have expensive pitchers that we absolutely want to play a ton of.
Altastic also says Washington versus Alexander, and no one is really chatting about them. Now, I doubt Washington's one of your tier 1 or tier 2 teams, but not a bad time to talk about them.
Washington did not make my top 12. However, they are going to be one of my highest owned mini stack teams. I really like Wood and Abrams, or Abrams and Lau, or what, like a couple of those guys. I just don't really want to 5-man stack them. Just because like there's a route where Alexander only goes 3 or 4 innings, and Houston gets to mix and match, and I think they have a couple of left-handed pitchers out there that really can neutralize like Abrams and Wood and Lau. So there's just some things that are holding me back from loving them. But I am very high on James Wood to break out of his slump tonight.
Would he be a dawn call?
He is somebody that I drafted in my friend's dinger contest that we do every single day. So he's definitely on my list.
There we go. We got an early dawn call. I think Edward and Harlock got you. Are the Athletics your other tier 1 team?
They are.
There we go. Good job, boys. I was going to let them slide under the radar. You guys picked that one off. And the minute Edward popped in and said it, I was like, yep, I think that's the one. There we go. Who's your third tier 2 team?
What do we got? Third one is Atlanta.
Back to the well.
I think there's going to be a lot of people that have Atlanta higher up on their list. They've just burned us so much, but it's a good night with obviously the weather. Bad ballpark overall, but weather is a plus. Lugo, I don't really love the idea of picking on Lugo, but some of the Atlanta bats have solid numbers against him. And I wonder if him getting his extension kind of relaxes him a little bit. His last start was elite, and it looked like he was going to be the best starter traded at the deadline. But then Kansas City up and signed him to a 2-year extension, kind of out of nowhere. But from the way my list kind of breaks out, you kind of see it's like more like game environment.
Right.
Like Seattle and Sacramento and the A's up at the top, and then Atlanta and KC in tier 2. I like those environments for offense. I don't believe in calling it game stacking because what one offense does really shouldn't dictate what the other one does.
Sure.
In general,
I think
unless it's a low scoring game, they manufacture runs instead. But
I think it's just an easy term people latch onto because they understand it for football.
Yeah.
Who are your tier 3 teams? You might as well run through those two really quickly, and then.
We mentioned the Dodgers. Then we have the Brewers and Cubs. Brewers probably we're in the debate for tier 2. I just don't really like Ray all that much, but
another 2.5 team.
Yeah, then the Cubs. I think they're fine. Priesters look good though, but the Cubs I think did beat him up a little bit the one time he faced them. Then we have Boston. It was tough to get a read on Boston because for much of the day we didn't know who Minnesota was starting. going to keep Boston in there. But then we have the Yankees, who we kind of mentioned earlier, and then the last two teams are the Mets and the Angels. Don't love the idea of the Mets against San Diego, but
Right.
I think they're fine. And then the Angels against Patrick Corbin, they're capable of hitting a bunch of home runs. So that's kind of the dart throw with that lineup, even though I am playing some Corbin. The Angels are fairly popular according to our leverage stack, so I will be underweight on them then, since they're the last team in my list.
Sounds fair. I want to take a quick look here just to make sure I am not necessarily missing anyone myself that I kind of, excuse me, had a penchant for. I really don't see them. I did find it interesting, leverage-wise, that KC was drawing so much quote-unquote ownership but didn't generate leverage. And I don't mind it when LA does that, the Angels, but when KC does it, it kind of makes me wonder. Let's see this. Let's dive into the DS. Let's really quickly show people how to do this cash game setup. It's super, super easy. And then I want you to walk through what you would change and how you would pivot stuff off. And then I think that we can either take a little bit of Q&A or we can just send it into the night. First thing that I'm going to do, and I think from earlier today, I think the number was about 145. So we'll start there. Just optimal mode, one unique. Use this left-hand slider here. Let's put it at 150 just to see if it jams up on us. 99 max exposure for everybody, and start. When it says here, not enough players, then you loosen up this slider a little bit. Go down to about 140 and see if it builds you lineups. If it does, great. You're in the wheelhouse. You can maybe push it to 145 and get the maximum amount of owned lineups that you can. Only 4 teams could be generated there. That's fine. I could use those 4. If I was building 10 teams, maybe it'd get me 4, maybe it'd get me 6. I don't know. But I'm in the wheelhouse of the chalkiest lineups this thing can build. And to be honest with you, if you're struggling and you're not great at cash games, or you're just looking to stop some of the bleed or whatever, this is just a decent way to set a high enough bar that you can play off of this stuff and you can actually be pretty competitive. Get a little bit of that confidence back, that winning stuff back, and then start tweaking and making some adjustments from there. But this will reset your system almost every time. Glasnow, Kikuchi look like the pitchers it's choosing. If you don't like one, make a pivot. But these are the ones that you generally would go with. And then a couple of Phillies, Royal, a couple Dodgers, a little bit of smattering of guys. Same thing here. If you want a little more Dodger heavy, that's fine. But you're just going to pick your favorite of these lines. There's a little bit Philly heavy. So you're using a lot of Phillies and Dodgers, and then a bunch of one-offs. And that's about all this takes from there. Maybe you make a swap here or two off of the cheat sheets or off of talking to one of the coaches in Discord or whatever and help you get that lineup a little bit tighter, because, again, this is really just a starting point. But I do play these lineups when I do them personally. And last night it cashed just fine on both sites, FanDuel and DraftKings, no problem. It runs 50 to 60% of the time it's going to cash through the season. So it's good enough, and it means our projections are good. But this is where you're starting, because this is where a lot of people are heading. This is what a lot of people's lineups might start to look like. So now you go and ask somebody like Razzle or somebody like, Tattoo or some of the more GPP-minded guys and say, how would you change this lineup? First thing, would you pivot off of a pitcher? If so, who? Would you pivot off of? You're going to build a bigger stack. You're not going to be 2 or 3-man stacks. You're going to build a bigger stack. But where's your priority lie when you see these lineups, Ras? Where would you go first? What would you change?
I mean, generally the easiest priority is to change pitching around. Because bat pivoting really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Stacking combinations or mini stacks or whatever. Pitching, I'm just such a weird spot for pitching tonight that it's so tough. Mm-hmm. The more that I look at things, the more I feel the safest with Max Fried, maybe even Lucas Giolito, who we haven't mentioned,
Ooh,
which is really gross. But that
yes.
Minnesota lineup is just not good right now because I assume Buxton was out yet. I haven't even seen their lineup.
Well,
But before I start talking,
I need a sound effect of a guy puking after that Giolito call.
their lineup's not out yet.
Dirty.
But like one of the issues there with Minnesota is like Willie Castro could be traded any second now. And that's the guy that's been hitting second or third. So like if you're without Buxton, you lose him. Giolito's been really good on the road with Boston so far. So I just feel like he's somebody that probably is going to be overlooked way more than he should be because this slate is full of pitching that I just don't.
Right.
I don't have confidence in. Like on paper, Luzardo should be easily the best option. The problem is the White Sox have been scoring runs, and Luzardo has looked like trash. There's rumors that he's going to end up moving to the bullpen if they acquire a starting pitcher at the deadline.
And yet he's chalky tonight.
Yeah.
Let's do something stupid. You'd keep Glass now, probably.
Yeah, I think probably. Like
if you're doing
this class now,
single entry, 3 max, some of that type of stuff. Obviously, 150 plus lineups. Quick answer. How many are you building tonight?
250.
Okay, so if you're doing that, obviously you're getting smatterings of everybody, and you're really controlling your exposures to 20, 25%, kind of like you were talking about. But if you're down building smaller amounts of lineups, 20 max and under, you've really got to take some stands. I locked Glass now, of course, figuring you would say that, but I went ahead and locked Giolito because I think this will be a fun exercise for everybody else. This is a big FU type lineup that would be a large field move in and of itself for a single entry. If you're only playing against 35 people, you probably don't need Giolito unless you really want to do something crazy and that you're doing it on purpose. Again, fine. But for larger fields, let's lock him in and let's see what happens. We know who your teams are. You would obviously stack these guys up, but based on tiers, tier 1 being Seattle and the Athletics, and none of them were really mentioned. It went, your tier 3 team in the Dodgers and a tier 2 team in the Phillies. If you were building, I don't know, 3 lineups or whatever, I'm assuming you would stack 5x2 and you would focus on Seattle and the Athletics in your bigger stack, maybe Philly or Atlanta or something like that. But those are probably the teams that you would be choosing on that big side, right?
Yeah. Even if you're trying to look at it more safety and like you mentioned, smaller field stuff too. Seattle and the A's obviously are my favorite 2 teams, but they're also 2 teams that have very strong guys that you just want to plug in to things, right? Both those teams have a catcher that we'd really want with our build in Shea and Cal Raleigh. Both have first basemen that I absolutely love tonight in Josh Naylor, who's stolen 4 bases with Seattle already somehow, and Nick Kurtz. So like 2 obvious plays there. Seattle has Polanco, who's cheap at a terrible second base position tonight. And then both teams have Rooker or J-Rod in the outfield. J-Rod's heating up, and then Rooker that ballpark is made for right-handed power, and that's what Rooker is. You add in another guy for the A's like Soderstrom or something, and you just have a really strong base of a build with either of those teams. And that group is cheaper than looking at Philadelphia, where you're going Trey Turner, Schwarber, and Bryce Harper. It's a really, really expensive trio. And then you have the Dodgers trio. Shohei, and then if you're using Teoscar and Will Smith or Teoscar and Mookie Betts, they're up there in pricing too. So, no.
No, I see what you're saying. I see where you're going. I'm kind of tweaking these things a little bit while you were talking just to get this set up so that we can crank it out, just to show everybody else what I did. This is one of the things I've talked about a little bit that you can do. It won't matter. We're focused on low enough owned stacks. This would have happened organically anyway. But when I know the number, for cash is like a 145, I'll come down off of the 145 and flip it to the right-hand slider size just to force everything to be lower owned than those chalkiest lineups. Instead of 10, let's build 20 lineups because I jerked around the percentages a little bit. You're a 3 unique guy, right?
I am.
And tournament mode, you've said you use hitter randomness before, right?
I barely use it, like
okay.
10 to 15%.
It's the other guys. I just put 20 on because I know the other guys are 25, and I've kind of toned it down a little bit myself. But I went 100% 5x2, and then over here on this big stack side, Athletics in Seattle were his tier 1 teams. He said Seattle was number 1, so I went 40% minimum, 30% minimum on the Athletics, and then the other 2 teams that we mentioned just to fade off KC because even though they're tier 2, you said you don't really like to use them all that often. So I figured let's just cut down these 4. For simplicity, if we were building 20 max or if we were building 150 or God forbid 200 plus, then we would be picking up all of these other teams, of course, in, as we went. But Philly just 10% because he said they were expensive and whatnot, and Atlanta 20% just because. This is just what I'm trying to do is get this number right here, this total minimum exposure on that big stack left-hand side to equal 100. And the reason why is when you force in all those minimums, now you're going to get the percentages that you want. If we're building a single entry, it doesn't matter. If we're building 3 max, it doesn't really matter. When you start building for 20 max and beyond, it does matter. You want this over here to equal 100 if you want all the math to work out right and not get some of these unstacked lineups. It's a fine point that you might do. Right side. What would you do on that right side? Let's just include everybody that you mentioned. So Philly, Seattle, Athletics, Yankees made your list. Dodgers made your list. We'll throw Washington in there just for the guys that brought that up. And you said you liked them for mini stacks as well, so that's not a bad way to go.
I do.
Cubs, KC, Atlanta, LA, you're sick of Texas. And then in this one, obviously put 40% on the max side of it just so it mixes them up a little bit. Don't really care. Whatever it gives us is what it gives us. And we'll just see what it kind of does. Sometimes it'll bog down big slates, slow the machine down. Everybody using it slows the machine down a little bit. So if you're trying to build 100, 200 lineups, it's going to take a while. So Glasson, Giolito, because we locked them in, 100% each. And then your big core guys, your Abrams from Washington, interesting. J-Rod, Urias, you may or may not like in the athletic stacks. Rosarina, Naylor, Soderstrom, Naylor with the stolen bases. So there's a 5 looking right at you. There's a 5x2 Athletics KC stack with Ohtani as a one-off. And you pulled in Witt. It pulled in Bobby Witt, which is interesting. Usually it goes for a more value play. But it's using 8 and 9 hole hitters from Oakland. That's why. It's got room for Bobby Witt. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that construction drives me nuts because, I'm just always plugging in Nick Kurtz. Right. At first with the A stack, and then you probably end up having to get rid of Bobby Witt and then use Shohei in the outfield, and then you move stuff around. But yeah, just really tough for me to use an A stack without Nick Kurtz, who's arguably been the best hitter in all of baseball over the last month.
And I want everybody to hear what you just said, because I think this is the difference between just playing what the optimizer gives you or just whatever picks some Twitter tout gives you and hoping that you're right because he's some genius, which he's not. Instead, what you heard here was playing a stack without Nick Kurtz is kind of dumb. So what you'd probably do is you'd go put in a door on Kurtz or a minimum on him in 20% of their 30, 40, 50% of the lineups, or just lock him in and run your athletic stacks that way. Whatever it is, when you see the optimizer spit something like this out where you go, you know what, that don't make any sense, then your job is to, as a thinking DFS player, dig into that lineup and make it make sense. So I like that. Good tip. Let's see. Let's go. There's 5 Atlanta Braves. Devers is a one-off. Back to mini stack from the Dodgers with Ohtani and Teoscar. Again, bottom of the order with that shortstop, Nick Allen. And Ozzy Albies. Ozzy Albies okay. He can run into one, not as often as he used to, but I don't know. I might leave him involved. I might get rid of Allen if I can.
I mean, I can tell you, I would very much get rid of Nick Allen. Like, there's zero upside for him. Like, you're literally just trying to take a zero. I'd rather not do that. So he's somebody that I basically almost zero out his projection.
Just
every single day. I drop him way down to where, like, if the DS really wants to force him in one lineup for something, then I probably just accept it. But I think I just dropped his projection down to 3.
Well, gosh, you've got 6, 7, 8, 9 down there. 6, 7, 8, 9 in the bottom of the Atlanta lineup. Is that you'd focus more on the top, wouldn't you?
I mean, that's what I want. Acuna for sure. Olsen.
It's not like your
Riley.
pitching is cost prohibitive.
Right. I want the money to be allocated correctly, and since our stacks are the most important thing that we're trying to put together for GPP stuff, like, I want to make sure my stacks are utilizing the best players and not just going super value across all 5 so that it can give me an expensive one-off and expensive 2-man stack. Like,
sure. Let's do one.
Your points are coming from your 5-man more so than anything else.
Yes.
And any one-off can hit a home run, or just about any one-off. Nick Allen's definitely not one of them.
I want one more lineup, then I got a question for you. You just brought up another really good point. What is this? 5 Seattle. There we go. But again, Cole Young, bottom of 1, 2, 5, 7, 9. I don't know if I like the 7. 1, 2, 5's okay. Bregman is a one-off, whatever. Perez, Pasquantino, again, you got some pop in that lineup. That's okay. But I know that that's what DS likes to do, which is pick up those value guys and put them in the 5-man stacks, which, again, fine, whatever. But I don't like the 9s and the 8s all over the place. How would you change this one around? There's no way you're not using Raleigh, right?
I mean, I'm definitely not building a Seattle stack that leaves out both Cal Raleigh and Josh Naylor. I know that for sure.
So you've almost got to scrap this one and just go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I mean, it's pivoting around. It's like Naylor for Pasquantino. You could use Michael Garcia at 3rd to keep your Kansas City mini stack. And then you have to get rid of, like, a Rosarena or JP Crawford, probably. I mean, you can move small things around. Like, some people think that you just have to completely scrap something. A lot of times you don't. There are some that I've seen that are so bad that I just want to scrap it completely. But you can use the framework, what's in front of you, and just move a couple pieces around, and you get to something that looks so much stronger.
Is that what you would do here, or would you scrap this particular one?
I think I just move around. Like,
okay.
I like the idea of Seattle with Kansas City. As much as I like Pasquantino, I like Salvador Perez, but 5-man stack is always my priority. And, like, I'm not leaving out both Raleigh and Naylor.
Right.
I can get behind leaving out Raleigh more just because he's so expensive at catcher.
Sure.
But I feel like you have to have one of those two. Obviously, my stacks, there'll be a number of them that have them both. In my last run, Cal Raleigh was in 15% of my 250 lineups, but
that's what brings up the question that I wanted to ask you. If you don't mind, I mean, I'm not going to run through all 20 lineups that we built. I'm just showing guys kind of examples of how this would all come together and how we would pivot off of cash with what we've talked about. How would you allocate either the likes, loves, adores, the minimums, the whatevers? How would you start tweaking this if you were building, say, 100-something lineups and you wanted to see more of those top 5, 6, 7 hitters in your 5-man stacks. And if DS is giving you some of this 8, 9 hole, for lack of a better word, shit, how would you allocate it knowing that that's your priority?
Well, I mean, part of my process is like I'm going either team by team or position by position and raising or lowering point per dollar on guys. So like I'm already decreasing some of those shittier players so that they don't pop as much. And then like you can do it one of two ways, like right? You can go position by position and just kind of layer it out how you like the position, your favorite guys at the top, higher point per dollar. Or you can go team by team and look at them and make sure your favorite guys on that team are the highest point per dollar. Doesn't mean they have to shoot through the roof at like 2.2 point per dollar, but as long as they're the highest ones on the team, they should be showing up more. So I just adjust that way.
So looking here, I sorted by team for the Athletics because I think that's the way that makes the most sense to me in my head instead of position by position. And you're looking at a bunch of these guys that are 2.05, who, knowing, that Urias was kind of in one and, whatever, how would you start kind of moving this around? Would you use the likes, loves, and adores and then watch point per dollar, or would you use the fantasy points column and just adjust it manually yourself and watch point per dollar that way? In other words, let's take the last couple of minutes of the show today and let's just kind of do the Athletics. We don't need to rerun it in the DS, but just show me kind of what you would do so these guys get a feel for doing it themselves.
Most of the time I do the likes, loves, and adores and negatives. So the problem is I don't want some of those guys I don't want to jump as much as they do or drop as much as they do. Right. So like getting a guy to drop from 2.1 point per dollar, if you use the thumbs down, you're losing 5%. The hate, you're losing 10%. But so basically you do the thumbs down, you lose 5%. You're just dropping from 2.1 to 2 points per dollar roughly, or 2.01. And I don't think that necessarily drops it enough on most guys. But some of those, then it might drop it too much. Like you might only want to move them from 2.1 to 2.05 just to make a slight change. Because you still want them. You just don't want to get them in every stack of that team. A lot of the times the guys that I don't want, I'm dropping down to the 1.9, 1.95.
So who don't you want in this lineup right now?
So Cortez shouldn't show up a whole lot. I don't really want Andujar that much. Like I'm fine with him.
So I'm just going to take him down to say 5%. And I want people to see that this number turns red, which indicates that you move the projection down. But it's really this number, this F point per dollar number that you're watching. And it went down to 1.97. Is that enough for you on Andujar, or would you bump him down more?
That's probably enough. Because he's gonna need to come into some of them. Because the top 5 guys are all 4,400 and up. Like, so to get some differentiation, you're gonna need him. So of those other guys, like I want him to be the one that pops up more than the rest. So I really want his projection to be the highest out of those 4 at the bottom.
Would you? So you'd get rid of Urias too. You'd drop him down.
Drop him down a little bit.
He went down to 1.92.
You could drop Cortez down. You could keep him, but he's kind of at the number that he probably shouldn't show up a whole lot.
Yeah, I think 1.8. So these guys were all under 1 point or under 2. Andujar is the highest at 1.97. Would you boost anybody? Langeliers, Rooker, Kurtz, of course. You said you want a lot of Kurtz. Would you get him up to 2.2, 2.25?
No, I don't want to, just because I think he's then gonna show up a little too much. The reason that is then he's going to trump some of the other first basemen in your other team stacks, main wise, because that jump is so strongly, so like now he might start showing up in Philly stacks over Bryce Harper. in the Kansas City stacks over Vinny Pasquantino, etc. So I don't really want those guys to trump into other, 5-mans as a one-off,
Sure.
really.
Sure.
So it's a tough juggling aspect because you want to have the more like Kurt. I can tell you right now that Kurt's at what he's projected at just 2.03 is showing up as my highest owned first baseman. So
wow.
You don't have to jump it all that much.
So if you did jump him 5%, he would start pulling in, like you said, he'd start interfering with the other big stacks that you want. Anybody in there that you would bump, Soderstrom or anybody? It's down a little bit lower, or is that
not right now?
Okay.
I mean, they're I use 2 or better as my main point. The guys that I'm core on are around 2.1, maybe a little bit more depending on their prices. But
good.
I use that 2 number as my gauge.
Hopefully that shows people a little bit of what you're doing. And then, of course, you'd go back when you make these changes, you'd go back and you'd run it again. And then you'd see if your Oakland stacks or whatever, athletics stacks changed. And did it start pulling in more of those top order guys and start, using less of those bottom order guys? And then if it didn't, then you might make some more changes, run it again. And you're trying, and then, like you said, you're looking for somebody like Kurtz or somebody to pull in and interfere with other teams' stacks like Harper. If I've got all my Phillies stacks and now they all go bottom of the order because it's pulling in mini stacks of, Kurtz and Langeliers or whatever, then you want to. That's why you spend so much time with the domination station and customizing it and making it the way you want it to appear. And guys, I mean, this is what the good players do. They spend that much time. That's why they can't come in at 5:30. Speaking of it being 5:30 now, they can't come in, at 5:30, 6:30 p.m. and say, hey, it's 30 minutes to lock. Who are the plays? It doesn't work like that. If you truly want to be good at this game, and these days the game is tough enough that you got to put in some of the work. Everybody does the best they can with cheat sheets and coaching and all that kind of stuff. But really, we don't very often get to see kind of a window into what people like Razzle are doing with their lives. That's why I wanted to show a little bit of that today too. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully the chat room appreciated it.
I mean, for this example, Atlanta would have been the best team to use for this. Because if you look at all of their point per dollar, they're all super similar. And then the best plays point per dollar, Acuna and Olsen are lower than you'd expect. So that's the perfect team to look at and be like, all right, I need to make some changes. Otherwise, the DS is just going to give me Harris, Ozuna, Albies, Profar,
right,
and then either Riley or even Nick Allen if you're not adjusting as my stacks. Because I can't tell you the number of times we have people come in and chat, an offense is blowing up, and they go, oh, I didn't realize that my Brave stacks basically had 0 Acuna or 0 Olsen, and he has 2 bombs or something.
Right.
Because nobody's paying attention to what they're getting in their runs. This is why I run the DS dozens of times before I submit lineups. I'm trying to make sure I'm getting enough of the guys that I want. The main players in my stacks.
So if I'm messing around, damn, it's really jumping right now. They're updating. That gets frustrating. I'm not moving any of the guys out that are already down at 1.8 and stuff. They shouldn't really pull in once we change this. But I went ahead and boosted Acuna, got him to 1.99. Would you go higher? Would you go 10% on him to get him up over 2?
I got him at 1.99 for right now.
Okay. Olsen, I had to boost 10% to get him at 2.01.
Yeah, I probably need to boost Olsen more for sure.
And Riley,
I love the first base position. Riley, I just moved him to just 2. I just changed his projection to 8.
Okay, so you'd come over here in that case, make it an 8, click out of it, and it moves you right to a 2. Profar leading off, how much of him do you want? Do you want more than the 1.97, or you just leave him alone?
I just left him alone. I just jumped up Drake Baldwin too. Even though Baldwin's hitting 7th now, but still, I jumped him up a little bit. He's still only at 1.9, so he might not show up a ton, but it should probably get me 1 or 2 extra shares of him in my Atlanta stacks by making that change.
Sure. And that's kind of what you want. You just want to pull in a little bit more. Ozuna, I see.
You're not trying to make a drastic change at all.
Albie's at 1.94. Would you drop him down a little bit, or would you leave him?
No, I'm going to keep him. I'm going to keep him right around those other guys.
I'm assuming it's
Albie's profile, Ozuna, Harris. They're all similar enough. That way, really, the DS, what it should do is take the 4 guys I like the most and then mix and match that 5th guy out of that group.
Okay.
Or 2 of them, in place of Baldwin. And just kind of rotate those 2 around, especially because I have 3 uniques. It's obviously a way for the DS then to just make it unique with 2 guys changing a stack, and then change 1 pitcher, change a 1-off, etc. I really just try to go team by team and organize the point per dollar, because that's what a lot of optimizers use is the point per dollar number.
That's the most important number. Yeah.
So that's what I pay attention to adjust and create groups of players. I know we did a lot of talking. I think Ali came in and asked if I like Washington stacks. I mentioned earlier they didn't make my top 12, but I really like them as a mini stack, and they will be one of my highest owned 2 or 3 man stacks on the slate.
Correct. And would Royce Lewis be a decent price as a bomb?
Yeah, he's one of my favorite. Too cheap. I did draft him today in my Dinger League as well. Just swinging it really well. So he's one of those guys that I just ride when they're hot.
Sure. Well, that was not the quickest show that we've ever done, but I think it was very, very helpful. Therefore, brought a lot of value. So I appreciate you jumping in today, and kind of doing that with the technical difficulties we were having behind the scenes. And we'll be back tomorrow with another couple of co-hosts, and we'll be doing something else. So hopefully, if you guys like this stuff, you got to subscribe to the channel. You got to do all that stuff. Comments are always helpful. Using the coupon codes are always helpful. Lets us know on the other side that when somebody joins DFS Army that they came from this show. Therefore, it encourages our quote-unquote bosses to let us keep doing it. And that's about it for tonight. We're at an hour. We need to get the hell out of here and do our lineups. So once again, dude, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Much appreciated. If you got any other wise words of wisdom, drop them. If not, I'll hit end stream and we'll boogie out.
No, Twins lineup isn't out yet, but they will be without Buxton. He just went on the IL.
There we go. Cool. All right, everybody. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Razzle, I guess, stay on the bench. Stay near the bench. Again, but if not,
I will be around. I am no longer available on Friday. I am heading out of town, so but I will be around tomorrow if I need to jump in again.
Sounds like a plan. We'll see how that one goes, and if not, I think you're scheduled for me and Tattoo, and we'll do it from there. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. See you.